Sometimes, like, you don't have to win this one. Like, there are easier trades to win.
It is not even a race between companies. It is a race between countries. There are going to be a lot of dead bodies. There are going to be a lot of zeros.
Welcome back to the next episode of the DGen Investor, brought to you by SJ and
UJ.
Right, today I think we'll spin it up a little bit. I think today, rather than setting a set topic, I think will be more of a general update, looking at markets, just like, basically just as we said, two people just blowing water and talking about anything crypto, or it could not be about crypto. Let's see. But just in case we do talk about specific tokens, specific equities, please, do your own research. And this is not financial advice, just to say that. And with all due, look, I think this week right now, markets seem to, markets has gone up a lot early August and then it's come back down. I think that's something that I think our viewers would like to talk about. Hopefully you guys aren't hurt too much by coming down. Hopefully you guys are still up. But this leg down seems to be a general deleveraging event rather than macro. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, actually, this leg down doesn't seem that bad if you put it into the context of
it's retraced back to what it was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I mean, I wouldn't even say it really retraced back that much. Like if you look at tickers like ETH has been like decently strong, right? Bitcoin is not that strong. Solana has been all right,
pretty resilient.
Yeah, it's been hugging the upper side of the price channel that it's on. So I would say it's actually really just a very mild retracement. In fact, what has been actually interesting to note would actually be, for example, some of the DATs, their multiple to NAV ratios. I think those have actually been
DAT being the crypto treasury companies, right? Like your BMNRs and your sharp links and whatnot.
Yeah, your sharp links, your SBETs, your MSTR even as well, because like yesterday, I think MSTR dropped quite a bit, and a big part of it was the compression in the multiple to NAV ratio.
That compression just being people trying to run out the door, and basically them being more liquid, basically leads to the price going down, I'm guessing.
Yeah, because I mean that's actually the only exit valve right now, right? If you wanted to get out of it, you can't go to the company and be like, hey, give me my share equivalent of Ethereum or Bitcoin. So all they can do is to just sell the shares. And that creates a selling pressure on the stock price.
Correct. And also, I think, as mentioned before, right, the ETH ones, like, you get quite worried, right? Because basically I still think the dilution in the shares have yet to come. Like, they have that whole shelf offering. And like, especially, for example, SharpLink, right, $1 billion or so, a few billion actually. Like, how are they going to be able to offload that? And like, basically, whether the stock price can take that, I think, is a different matter.
Yeah, so that's why SharpLink now actually trades very close to its net asset value actually. So the MNR multiple to NAV ratio is close to 1. Basically, there's almost no multiple right now for SharpLink. BNNMAR has done a little bit better, right? There was a period the week before where BNNMAR actually net asset value was very, very close as well. The ratio was close to 1.
Yeah.
But last week, things got very good for BNNMAR and it did really well. So I think for SharpLink's case, it remains to be seen if they can, pull a rabbit out of the hat the same way that BNNMAR did.
Yeah. My view on this is it's generally sentiment driven, right? Right. Like if ETH pumps up a lot and people get, like we did like a week ago, people get crazy in a sense that they get very bullish and, they start taking on leverage. Like these things can, they can trade above because of let's call it slight market exuberance.
Definitely.
Yeah. And that's what basically they're banking on. The problem being that, and we were there with GBTC, right? When things go really down, people get like they get exuberant the other way, as in like far too depressed than really means to be, and then you can see it trading discount to NAV, and whether it can make that up, that's a different matter. But eventually, I'm guessing like you'll see this for all of them, because even MSTR had that. No?
MSTR was actually is a very interesting case. I think we can even dedicate an entire episode to how they structured the entire company. Sailor basically started off with a truckload of convertible debt, and all of that got redeemed into equities, which is why if you take a look at the capital structure of MSTR, it is actually very equity heavy, very little on the debt component.
Yeah.
So I would say that there is no indicative data from that time period. It is the MSCR of today is a very different beast from the MSCR
Yeah.
of 2021 and 2022. That being said, I think you're 100% right that usually, as with all things in crypto, it really runs very hard in one direction, and it can equally go, the same magnitude in the other direction as well, especially on the downside. But I think there's something interesting this time around, which is that the ETFs actually, if you take a look at how much of the tokens that it has soaked in terms of Bitcoin and Ethereum, the ETFs have done a huge amount of heavy lifting.
Yeah. No, I follow a guy, on Twitter, the guy who does the Bloomberg ETFs. There's Eric. I can never pronounce his last name. It's
the ETF.
BAL. Yeah. And it was quite interesting. So like he was just posting like ETHA is basically top 10 ETF now, like basically out of nowhere in the last month. And
Exactly.
that's been quite incredible, actually.
Exactly. And it's really crazy because Ethereum does not have the same liquidity as Bitcoin, right? Which is why and how you see Ethereum going 3x over the last few months, right? It's just that there is not enough Ethereum. Now, so if BNMR is able to actually sustain its like purchase,
Is
we are
all-time
going
high
to see
inevitable?
if BNMR is able to, sell out like 20B of shares, then I would say that there is not that much ETH out there.
If BMNR and Sharplink can basically sell out that whole shelf, like it's inevitable, right? Basically, there's no amount of OG whales can sell enough for the market to sell enough to like keep the prices at where we are right now.
Exactly. In fact, a lot of the OG whales they sold out like below 2,000. I think there were quite a lot of reports about
during this year, right? That's the crazy one. During this year,
yeah, they sold below $2,000. A lot of
why did they choose to do, why do you think they chose to sell then, like when like it was so depressed, the market, and like not like when Trump won the election, when ETH was at 4,000 or any time before then?
Because that's human nature, right? Which is like price creates narrative. As it starts underperforming, you just notice all the bad things about it. It's human nature. It's like, for example, when you have
so basically they got caught by the ETH Foundation FUD, basically.
I'll say yes. I think they just got swept up in that whole narrative, and also if you were a major ETH holder over the last few years, you would have felt so depressed because first, Solana, it entirely retraced the FTX down, and it did so well, relatively speaking. Bitcoin did extremely well, and Ethereum went nowhere. In fact, there was actually a point this year where basically you would have made more money if you had Ethereum stuck in FTX than if you were holding Ethereum outside, just because the FTX shares were getting paid back at a premium.
Yeah, basically FTX. Yeah, because FTX was reclawing more than they owed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that very well, and we know this. We know the pain well and the story well, right? Basically, everything seemed to be going up 2x, and then the Ethereum rocked perpetually, like at 2,000 or below 2,000.
Yeah, but that being said, it doesn't mean that the all the problems with the ETH Foundation has actually gone away. I mean, they're still there. If you listen in to the foundation calls, if you take a look at their development roadmap, if you look at the amount of, I wouldn't call it infighting, but the amount of discussion about priorities, you will see that there's still that same amount of dysfunction in general.
Like I just get like when I get into the ETH Foundation stuff, it's just all about blobs and sharding and whatnot. It's like super technical in the sense that
I think there is the problem that the new director that came in, and I think his point was that the foundation needs to do more and implement more on the technical work and do much less talking about, you know, the trade-offs. What if we did this? What if we did that? He's just like, okay, don't we can stop imagining what if we did this or that. We need to do something. We need
yeah,
to deliver. So I'll say that
yeah, like
dysfunction
it's not a
there has not gone
charity.
away.
I think what they're trying to do, like they're trying to focus on like especially Vitalik's been trying to focus on scaling. I think that's been good. And still keep the the security because I think if ETH ever loses like the sense that it's secure, I think that's a very big problem for especially stable coins and whatnot. I actually,
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely, yeah, I agree. It will lose the whole narrative as a settlement layer.
yeah. But anyway, going back to the markets and why we're trading down. Actually, what I think is, it's quite remarkable that, basically we've still stated like basically we're 4,000, we're touching this, we're 4,006, 4,000, like touching distance of 4,007, touching distance of 4,008, going back down to, call it now or 4,002, 4,003, depending on the moment. There's like so much news going on in the macro side, be it whether Ukraine, Russia can do a deal, basically now they're fighting. China and U.S. again are fighting over the chips and whether there's tariffs there, tariffs of India. The third part being, what was the third one? It'll come to me. But basically, there's so much noise going on. Sorry, and interest rate battles with Powell, right? Trump and Powell, and basically trying to trying to put his people on the Federal Reserve. And yet, I think the markets in general and even the S&P is kept quite constant, which is quite remarkable, I think.
I mean, it's really resilient, right? If you look at the S&P, it is still,
Except if you're a Palantir holder, I'll say that.
yes, yes. So it's actually really interesting because I saw the first time on Wall Street Bets where people want to short Palantir, right? Like you never see these guys wanting to short a stock because if you're short a stock, the upside is pretty much
Yeah,
limited.
because Wall Street Bets is all about short squeeze, right? They're
Yeah,
basically a bunch of guys who are looking for a short squeeze
usually,
at this
yeah, they are
point.
looking for that 100x opportunity, right? The next Carvana, etc. But it will not be, if you're a fund manager and you de-risk during the whole trade war and tariff issue, you would not feel very good right now because your benchmark, the S&P, has just gone up in a straight line, right? Yes, there's been a bit of a retracement, but it is still pretty high, right? It's definitely, it's close to like 20% higher from the lows of the
Yeah,
trade war, which if it doesn't go down, then I would say that a lot of managers will find themselves being, pretty much short against the benchmark. And in order to recoup and the lost ground, they need to, find either better long candidate names or just have much more aggregate net exposure to the market.
yeah. So I'm guessing basically a lot of the big hedge funders like are short like names such as Palantir. I'm pretty sure they're short a lot of the crypto treasury companies.
I think there's been some of these hedge funds that started shorting this. Like I think Jim Channels. I think he's been quite vocal, about shorting MSTR and being long Bitcoin as a hedge.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of these trades may work out, but I'm
I
not
just
sure
think
if
it's
it's
so
the slam dunk.
documented. I think it's so documented, like the downside, like how some people have like completely lost their shirt, like just like I say, MicroStrategy. A lot of people have like basically been short squeezed out of MicroStrategy, and yet that's still a trade that's on, right? I just feel like sometimes like you don't have to win this one. Like there are easier trades to win.
Well, I mean, if you look at the history of hedge funds, there's been people who went to short the Hong Kong dollar so many times that,
Yeah.
and they decide to fight a currency board. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think there will always be funds willing to um try
Yeah.
to correct a mispricing that they think is that defies their moral compass.
Yeah. But and going back to that, right? Basically, to the market with the macro noise and like basically the markets being resilient, like crypto as well, right? Are you tend to be more bullish or bearish right now as we going to the tail end of Q3, going into Q4? So there are two ways, right? People are scared to see, like like you read sometimes the news. And by the way, the news is pretty skewed against the market because people are rooting, like the media is rooting against Trump. You can read it from Wall Street Journal, the FT. This the whole like the whole vibe is like everyone's pretty like you can read that like all the media guys are pretty unhappy that the market's going up while Trump's in power. Um, but then like I guess one side is that basically inflation will start to creep up as the markets, U.S. sort of market indicators such as consumption or labor market gets weaker, and then like we get a harder landing, or B, like none of this matters and market just keeps driving up.
I think it depends because what we define as a market, right, matters a ton. Just because there's a lot more dispersion in the markets, right? The AI names, the high tech names have done really, really well. And the rest of the market has not done so well. So the same picture is reflected in the economy. If you look at the numbers coming out of the US, youth unemployment is actually creeping up. And youth unemployment in many parts of the world is actually increasing because companies are just finding it increasingly harder to operate normal companies. And you have tech companies like the hyperscalers just going like, yep, AI is the future. We're going to still commit to spending, 1/3 of our free cash flow on it. So you really have like a dual track economy that is coming out into the market right now. I would say that going back to the question, like, like will we position long, short, or flat? I would say that you are forced to be long because if you are short the market, there is a lot of reasons to be short the market because there's a lot of things to be fearful about. But what we have seen this year is that a lot of these fears actually get resolved, right? And all of these are opportunities for the market to re-rate higher, which you see in the price action. The market just goes
Well,
up,
they get
goes down.
resolved as in January or like in February, right? Basically, it's like AI overspend, and it turned out it wasn't even true.
Oh, for sure. Like,
Right?
I
Remember
mean,
January was a DeepSeek fear. Like DeepSeek was coming out from China.
yeah,
The great company, I'm sure, but and if they're saying like basically everyone doesn't need as many Nvidia chips. This was January, and it didn't turn into it. Yeah, and then the demand still crept up.
yeah. I mean, that's because a lot of the people who are looking at it or who are very vocal about it, they just don't understand the AI story. If you had any understanding of AI, of DeepSeek, of how they came about with the model improvements, etc., you realize that the presence of DeepSeek doesn't really mean that AI spending will go down. The race is there for super intelligence, and it is not even a race between companies, it is a race between countries. Every single
Yeah,
country is trying to become the leading AI world power. I don't see a situation where this
demand goes
actually
down.
changes. It's gonna be, unless you have countries all together deciding
Who
that,
fail
hey,
or who
let's
fail?
not, yeah, let's not, pursue this anymore. But it's going to be so difficult because right now, with the presence of AI, even in the like for the last 3 years, the amount of innovation that's come out of it is such that right now your AI agent for $20 a month will have the same amount of technical knowledge in whichever domain with enough expertise to rival a PhD expert. Right? You don't
Yeah,
have to take a
already
human.
today. All right, I remember Elon saying that already today.
And this
We
is
have
what
that.
is commercially released to the public. you can probably imagine what they have not released.
Yeah.
So I would say the people who are trying to, go short on AI or go short on tech because this is running like too far ahead. I think they are over indexing on the local map, and they are not taking into account the entire history of the human race, which is just about progress. And if we look at anything on progress and we plot it on time scale, you realize that the time scale is rapidly shrinking. Every single big technological leap is just happening faster and faster.
Yeah. So basically, like the last week, where people like reading the news have been attributing basically some of this downturn to fears over sort of, I think Sam Altman had a conversation with someone in the public saying that a lot of these AI protocols are going to basically have zero return. And yet there's another panic about AI again, right? You see basically all these, I think that's one of the things that led Palantir to go down.
Oh yeah. I mean, what Sam Altman said is absolutely correct. There is going to be one
A lot
winner.
of bodies, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of bodies.
But the winner will get the spoils, right? The
Yeah.
winner is going to control so much.
But it's not going to stop all these
economy.
people fighting still to try to get there, right? Like, I just don't see how Facebook stops spending, or like basically they want to buy, like they're trying to create more data centers already as we speak, or like
Exactly.
Google, or or all the Chinese companies like Baba or Baidu, whatnot, or Tencent, etc.
Correct.
Everyone needs to spend.
Don't look at what they say. Look at what they are doing, right? I mean, they can say whatever they want. It's probably, I mean, you wouldn't think too much of your opponent telling you that, hey, this fight is not a good fight. You don't care, right? You're still gonna fight.
But they'd like to improve, right? Say like, because like I think ChatGPT 5, I think just reading on the reviews, people wanted a little bit more from it. For them to get further forward, is it still more spending on chips, or do you think they have enough chips?
I think that's the thing, which is that you can always make advancements in terms of two things, right? Which is like the raw computational power. And the second thing you can do is you can make adjustments to your algorithms to make them much better. Let's say handling like say longer contexts, etc. Like these are like clever little implementations that you can do. And if you look at what DeepSeek has done, that is innovation that's born out of necessity, right? Just because they restricted the powerful chips. So I would say that at this point in time, it's not about choosing which route to go. In that race for super intelligence, you're going to take whichever path you can get. So
whichever the path is getting, whichever is fastest that you see.
Yeah, I mean these are paths
step.
that you can stack on, right? It's not like if you go for chips, you're not going to improve your algorithms. You are still going to try to improve your algorithms. You're just going to do both at the same time.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I guess like both of us agree that like, basically like we think this is just smoke and mirrors, and the numbers will speak for themselves, right? Like basically this is an arms race, and people will still go.
Yeah, and
in a sense, and yeah, go on.
I mean, there are going to be a lot of dead bodies. There are going to be a lot of zeros. Like that, that is going to happen.
Yeah, just like just like meme coins. It is in a sense, right? Because like basically they have a lot of capital, they're spending a lot, but some of them don't necessarily make revenue. But like a lot of people are punting because the ramifications of anyone succeeding are so great that even governments are supporting this. And there's a lot of things that
have to support it.
Yeah, and so like basically there's a lot of things that that we find exciting in this world, right? That's why we're in crypto as well, because crypto is de facto also in some sort of arms race. I think like look, I think basically what Eric Trump just went today and said some company bought 200,000 BTC. Right. And he didn't name whichever country that was, but I'm pretty sure like that's going to be an arms race soon. As soon as like the US starts stockpiling, and if they can stockpile more, everyone will start stockpiling.
Yes, I mean the US is the sets direction, and if the US says that hey, we are going to recognize Bitcoin as an asset, then that is the direction that things are going to move towards.
It's quite crazy. As Elon said, what the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. And and this shiny orange coin made by some nerds in 2008, 2009 can be the de facto store of value for governments.
Yes.
That's a pretty entertaining outcome.
Yes, it's a great irony that Bitcoin, which was born out of the financial crisis, which was born as a response against governments
Bailout.
rebasing money, bailing out,
Yeah.
public
It can
bailouts.
it can be used for the next bailout. Wouldn't that be? Then we come full circle.
Yes, it'll be very poetic.
Well, on that note, look, I think as we said, like the markets had a bit of movement the last few weeks, right? Like basically mid-August went up when ETH was touching 4,007, nearly touching 4,008, right? On the timeline, everyone's thinking 12K, 15K ETH. Now we're at 4,001, and my timeline says like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go back to 2,000. Is it
2000.
like 2,000? So just go out, touch some grass, right? We're at least here we were in cautiously bullish, cautious because you never know, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, I think that's the approach to go.
Yeah, especially this year. It's been such a roller coaster year, and it's mainly because of macro, frankly, right? April went down, like everything went down by half. So let's see, because like we're certainly right now the bears have come out, but bears always sound smart, but they're always right, like really later on.
Yeah, the risk reward of being bearish is really terrible.
Correct.
So, but
Right.
if
I'm
you
sure,
wanted
like,
to sound smart,
because of market cycles, yeah, eventually it'll come down. But it's just that, like, you're usually wrong really late.
yeah, and you probably get blown out if you try shorting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend that if you want to.
On that note, remember, like, did you see? There was some the economist, the former economist of Harvard, basically wrote
Oh,
a tweet.
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty sad. I feel like if our readers didn't see it, it was a guy who used to be the economist for Harvard, and I think a few years ago he wrote a post saying that Bitcoin was closer to $100 than 100K. And now that Bitcoin's 100K, obviously everyone rightfully dumps on him, and he's going like, "I was wrong because of everything that happened." It's kind of a stupid post, to be honest. He was saying like, if the things that have happened didn't happen, it would be $100. Well, no shit.
Yeah, but I think that's why he's an academic, right? Because
Yeah.
they are very good
But
at describing the world.
you can never win an argument if you do that. Like if things that have happened didn't happen, then I will be right. Then then what?
Yeah. So I mean, but that's why I would say that generally, if you want to sound smart, you can be an academic or you can be
No skin in the
bearish.
game.
But if you want to try to extract a commercial outcome from the markets, then you have to think about risk reward. You have to think about probability. It's not so clear cut anymore. The world becomes much less black and white.
I know it's like for us, I think it's always for our viewers. It's just like everything, keep an open mind because things can, like, especially if you're already in crypto, you just know things can change very quickly, right? Things can snap bearish, but when it's not too bearish, when things go up, people get too over exuberant, and just be open to all outcomes.
And there's this quote that I really really like, which is that it's from this pretty wealthy guy. He said that don't be too happy when it goes up. Don't be too sad when it goes down. Otherwise, how are you going to sleep and eat?
That's actually pretty apt. Must be a poker player. But it's true. Anyway, I think we'll wrap things up there. Well, like I know this was more a freestyle format. Like let us know in the comments whether there's a good one or not. I think it's generally a good one for us to do every now and then, simply because like last week there was no specifically big things happening in crypto. If there is, we'll talk about it. But if not, I think something like this, just to see that just to talk about our views, I think could be quite generally interesting. So let us know in the comments to see what you have, or if any specific topics you want us to talk about, we can also do that. Well, till next time then. Clap it up.
All right.
See you next episode.
Guys.
Bye.